So you may look at Chessie here and see just a normal looking horse. But what you don't know is she's pretty extraordinary. So horses really have an ability to almost read our minds. Only because, you know, they notice our posture, the way we walk, what we look at, what we pay attention to, how we hold ourselves. I mean, they notice everything about us. And because we act out of our thinking a lot of times, it does seem like they can read our minds. They can't, but, you know. Truly makes horses extraordinary. But Chessie here, she's not just a normal horse, extraordinary in that sense. She is what they call a Tennessee Walker. Some of you may be able to tell that by the way she looks, but what that means is that she was bred and trained to walk with like a 4-beat rhythm. It's different than most horses, and what that does for her, that allows her to have a very smooth ride, and that's why I wanted a Tennessee Walker, was because I didn't want to be roughed up riding a horse. So she's very smooth to ride, and so they were bred, you know, by farmers who would use them to work in the fields, and then they would use them to ride over the mountains to town. A really difficult terrain, and yet they would be a nice smooth ride for the family. That's what she was bred for. So she is truly an exceptional horse. She's extraordinary. She's not just an old horse. I was reading in the book of Ephesians this week, in chapter 3, and Paul talks about writing a letter to Christians, right, to the church, and he wants them not to live ordinary Christian lives. You know, and if I asked people today, you know, are you a Christian? They would say, yeah. Are you a special kind of Christian? They would be like, no, I'm just an ordinary Christian. They don't feel like they live extraordinary lives. And that was actually what Paul was writing to the church, that in Ephesus there, he wanted them to understand who they were and what it meant to be in Christ and to live out of that. He said in chapter 3, the latter part of that chapter, he said what he wanted them to know, he wanted them to be filled in the insides with the power of God, the Spirit of God, so that we would be strong in Christ, that we would know the dimensions of God's love, the dimensions of God's love that you can't get your hands around. He wanted us to grasp that and to know that which is unknowable. He said in that way you'd live a life that was full of the fullness of God. Paul wanted us as Christians to live lives that were extraordinary. That not just to be a regular old Christian, but actually to be a extraordinary one. See, the way it works is that when you rely on this power of God, which is love, when you live that out, when you understand that that's alive in you, and you want to express that, you want to show that to the world, so the world will see, right? Because that's who you are. When you live out of that power, it's kind of like her gait that goes over uneven terrain and yet feels nice and smooth. Same as the Christian life. No matter what life may bring to us, right? The ups and downs and the rockiness of life. When we live out of that identity of being in Christ, it transcends. We're not caught up in all the ups and downs and the rocky little spots. Because we have the power of God, the love of God at work in us, we're able to continue. Chessie here is extraordinary, exceptional. As far as horses go, so are we when we live out of the love of Christ. God bless you. Have a great week. You want to go for a ride, Chessie? Let's go.